Compare how poets present power in Ozymandias and one other poem from the Power and Conflict cluster. How do you go about comparing some poetry? The first thing that you need to do is to be clear on what the beef, what the problem, what the agenda of each particular poet is. If, therefore, the issue that Shelley has with regards to power is that he wants to mock autocracy, to mock the monarchy, to attack Christianity, if he wants to celebrate the power of the artist, if he wants to demonstrate how time erodes legacy, how time is more powerful than any one person could ever be, then that's what you need to put in an introduction. If I choose London as a comparative poem, simply because they go side by side, they're of similar eras, there are similarities in message, I then in my introduction need to compare it to what William Blake's beef is, what his problem is, what his agenda is. Why did he get out of bed on that particular morning to write this poem? We don't tend to write without there being a purpose. What's the purpose? Blake seeks to demonstrate how power corrupts, how it corrupts people, how it corrupts nature. Blake is angry about the poverty and the injustice of Britain, of London in particular. That's where he's walking around in the time of empire, at a time when Britain is phenomenally powerful all around the world. And he seeks to demonstrate the cyclical nature of power, but more significantly, how the cyclical nature of life is inescapable for those at the bottom of the social hierarchy. So how do you go about putting that into a powerful, emphatic, interesting introduction which demonstrates to examiner just how you are going to pick up some lovely marks very quickly? The first thing that you say, waving to a colleague, the first thing that you try and do is articulate those beefs. And whether you say all of the things I've just said or not, at least one on either side, to demonstrate that you are conceptualizing the poem. You recognize that there is a bigger issue at stake. Compare the ways power is presented in Ozymandias and one other poem from the Power and Conflict cluster. I'm choosing London. This is a model introduction. In Ozymandias, Shelley seeks to expose and critique the nature of autocracy, attacking and ridiculing the monarch, in this case through the character of Ozymandias, who is arguably an emblem and metaphor for the present-day monarch, George III. In so doing, Shelley seeks to demonstrate how time will erode the legacy of any one man other than the artist who creates the sculpture in the first place. And in so doing, also celebrates the power of his own art in role as poet. Similarly, in London, William Blake bitterly exposes the corrupting nature of power, how it corrupts people and how it corrupts Mother Nature itself. And through the cyclical nature of his poem, demonstrates the poverty and injustice in the London of the late 18th century. And that's it. You're providing a framework upon which you then discuss. So if I have said that Shelley seeks to expose, to ridicule, to mock autocracy, I now need to give examples in the text of where we see him ridiculing the nature of autocratic, domineering power. A sneer of cold command. A lovely example. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. These are perfect demonstrations of Ozymandias' sense of grandiosity, his inflated sense of self. and we demonstrate that by using quotation. In William Blake's poetry, if I'm demonstrating the corrupted nature of power and how power corrupts people and how power corrupts nature, I would focus on a word like chartered. If chartered means to sort of take control or ownership of something, to spell out the rights to be owned by, well then the Chartered Thames is a perfect example of this, because the Thames, a natural phenomenon, should not be owned by any man, by any government, by any institution, and is a perfect, an apposite demonstration of the corrupting nature of power. Whether you decide to discuss poems side by side, or whether you decide to talk about all of Ozymandias and then all of London, it doesn't really matter. So long as you're writing about both poems, you're drawing some comparisons between them at times, but you're recognising that there is a beef, there is a problem. Shelley's got a problem, Blake's got a problem. Articulate the problem and demonstrate how the text, how the poems prove it. Be interesting, say what you think, and then you'll be fine. Good luck.